Hi, this is Belinda Calibriali and this is Talking High Performance with Belle. So I'm making this podcast for people who want to live their best life, people who know that there's more in them, but they just don't know how to get it. So there's a gap, something's missing, I'm making it for them. Hi and welcome to episode 9 of Talking High Performance with Belle. I've really been looking forward to this one and sharing a little bit of insight into, what the power of patience looks like in my life in order to set me up for long-term success. And, it's something that I've had to work at and is a work in progress as I'm not always the most patient person. So bear with me as we go through this episode and hopefully get some tips into, the advantages of long-term thinking. So I think why is long-term thinking the key to success? And when we talk about high performance, we're talking about what are the top 15% of people in the world do that are different to the rest. And there are certain traits that they have and certain things that they work on that sets them up, and certain ways that they look at life that really allows them to excel in their own way. And we're not talking about comparing yourselves to other people, but we're talking about what does it take for you to have the excellent version of your life. So not perfect, but what does excellent look like to you? And I want to start by talking about excellence versus perfectionism. So, I've worked with many people in the past who they won't put something out there unless it's perfect. And, I think that's a great quality to have sometimes. For me, I'm more the person that's like, let's just get it out there and just see how it is and tweak and refine. And, so often that could be, I've read my email drafts 10 times and I send it out and there's a spelling error. Or, I release an ebook and there's a double up of a word. And for me, in the beginning where that I'd be going like, oh gosh, that's, nobody's ever going to work with me because I wrote and twice or I put an S at the end of a word. Now I'm like, you know what, that's me. And, I often do things like this, and sometimes it doesn't matter how many times, it's not from lack of planning. It doesn't matter how many times you proofread it. Sometimes you just miss things. And I think this is with life. If I'm talking about life with, 4 young kids, I can go to myself, I'm going to be patient today. I'm going to be patient. I'm not going to raise my voice. I'm going to be patient. And then something happens and it just tips you over the edge. So I think this is striving for excellence, and, what does excellence look like in our life is very different to perfectionism. And so for me, I'm striving to be, the best parent that I can be. I'm striving to be the best coach I can be. I'm striving to be the best person I can be. And I know that won't be me being perfect. And I'm totally fine with that. But it's just, I get disappointed when I'm like, I knew I could have done that better. Or I should have not prepared better, but maybe I should have slept more so that I wasn't as grumpy with the kids. Or I should have read that one more time. So maybe the result would have been different. But when I'm working towards what is the best version of me look like, I find it a lot easier. So next week, I'm going to talk a little bit about failing forward and what that means. But today I want to talk a little bit again about excellence versus perfectionism and how do you achieve that level of excellence for yourself. And it's not about comparing yourself to other people. When we talk, what does your life or your best life look like? It's about how can you be the best that you can be. And, sometimes there's always a danger in, as I mentioned before, something might be released and it won't come across in the way that you wanted it to be. Or you release a podcast and you say 100 times, I don't know anyone like that, but if you do, let me know. Or example, when I wrote my book, Elevate Your Thinking, at the time I wrote it, it helped me through a really dark period of my life. And I think, at that time, that book was my version of excellent. I was super proud of it. It wasn't perfect. I knew there were better books out there, but I was really proud that I could share my story in this way, and it resonates with so many people that have read it. My version of excellence now is a little bit different. So the next book will be a little bit different. But at that time, when I'll look back at that, and I still go now, oh, that's my practice book, because I kind of just winged my way through it. But I worked really hard on it and I'm really proud of it. So that was my version of excellence at the time. And this goes for everything in our lives, whether we're learning an instrument, whether we're cooking a recipe, whether we're learning a new skill, we're striving for the best version of excellence for us at that particular time. Firstly, I want to talk about the power of patience. So when we know that, it's a journey, writing is a journey, our careers are a journey, and we know that to get to the end goal, depending on what position you're after, or depending on, how you want to parent, or depending on what you want to write, for example, you know that it's a journey. You need to practice, you need to tweak, you need to research. And this is where the power of patience comes in. And this is where we need to think long-term versus short-term. So how do we know if we've got long-term or short-term thinking? So often the consequence of short-term thinking is we're overwhelmed, we're burnt out, and we're stressed. If we're feeling that constantly, we're thinking short-term. If we go, okay, I want my life to look like this. I want to feel, calm. I want to feel relaxed. I don't want to be exhausted at the end of the year. All of these processes that we're putting in place, or the ways that we can think and things that we can set up our months and our days and our years like, by doing all of that and strategically planning, this is how we know we're setting up for the long term. When we're building a business and we know that it's baby steps initially, but we've got an end goal and so we want to build really solid foundations, that's how we know we're thinking long term versus just going in and trying 10 different things and, getting burnt out and it doesn't work and we give up. That's short-term thinking. If you think about it like building a house, building really solid foundations, and then the frame goes up and then eventually you start to feel it and things look a lot nicer and feel a lot nicer. That's long-term thinking. So if we adopt a high-performance mindset around it, it's all about how do we build sustainable habits, how do we build momentum, and how do we structure our days to go, okay, these are the skills that we need to learn, this is what our day needs to look like, but also this is the rest that we need to take along the way in order to get us to that long-term thinking and to avoid burnout. So that's really important. So how do you implement this then into your life? And over the summer period, I read this book called The 10X Rule by Grant Cardone. And this book epitomizes the practice of excellence and basically says, if you want to be excellent, not perfect, like we're not looking for perfect, but if you want to be excellent, you need to, and you want to achieve more than the average person, you need to work 10 times harder. And 10 times harder doesn't mean hours of the day. 10 times harder just means really structuring and thinking and planning and being a lot smarter than what the you maybe a year or two ago would have done. So what does a smarter day look like? What does, more productive time look like? And if I relate it to my life, because as I've mentioned before, I'm a bit of a productivity nerd. I don't feel burnt out. I feel like if I'm tired, I'll have a nap during the day. It could be 20 minutes, or I'll go to bed early at 8 or 8:30. And this could be even on a Saturday night when, really it's a little bit early for a 40-year-old to go out, but to 40-year-old to go to bed. But, I'll set myself up so that I know, I'm really conscious of this is what I want the next day to look like. This is how I want to feel. And this is what's important for me to reach my next level of excellence. So I will do things like that. And, burnout is something, again, that happens when we're not thinking long term. So that, if you go out for a few drinks and you feel average the next day, that's okay if you do that once in a while. But if you're constantly going, I shouldn't have drank last weekend, but you're still doing the same thing, that's short-term thinking. So that's really important. And a book that, really helped with that, as I said, was The 10X Rule by Grant Cardone. I want to talk about now just beginning the journey. So how do you begin the journey of long-term thinking? And I want to leave you with 3 questions today in order to do that. So the first question is, who do you want to be in 5 years from now? And what do you want your future to look like? So by going, okay, this is what long-term I want my future to look like, it's much easier to plan for it. So who do you want to be in 5 years from now? And what do you want your future to look like? Question 2, do you have the people in your circle needed to be successful and keep you on track? So do you have the right people in your circle? And they say we are like the top 5 people that we hang around the most. Are they the right 5 people? Is there some tweaking that needs to happen there, or is there opportunity there? That's question 2. Question 3, how do you ensure you keep yourself on track and continually think long term? So if you look at the past few months, or you look at what's coming up in your diary, are there constant patterns where you work really hard for 3 months and then you get sick, or it's getting towards the middle or the end of the year and you're feeling burnt out? So what do you need to ensure that moving forward, you help yourself with this to avoid that burnout that we've spoken about and think about long-term goals and plans? And, for me, this is something like even getting a yearly calendar and blocking out the holidays. So I know that even if we're not going away, these are times when I'm not working or I'm having downtime, which really helps to maintain that motivation and helps with that long-term thinking. So they're my top tips for setting yourself up for long-term success and why it's really important to be patient. And sometimes, patience is a hard virtue to hold, and I've struggled with that. And it's a constant work in progress for myself as well. But I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, please don't forget to subscribe. And I'm looking forward to talking to you next week, where we'll talk about failing forward and how we can only move forward and reach success by failing numerous times. Until next time, live a successful, purposeful, and fully charged life. Your coach, Belle.